Good evening. Welcome to this wonderful uh, experience that we're going to have today. And the program that was very, very intriguing when I heard the topic that is going to be talked today, brought to us by none other than Vrusha Shirish Raghu. She's an HR professional currently learning to manage and ace two positions. One, as an Associate Director, Learning and Development at Nine Leaves, and two, as a co parent into the world of gentle parenting. I love the words, the way it has been written. Her journey has been a roller coaster ride, and Redikall has played a pivotal role in shaping her experiences, empowering her to navigate both the peaks and valleys of life with resilience and enthusiasm. People, you think that I speak, that it's written by me probably, or one of, the administrative people who are helping us. Most of it comes from the speakers themselves. And with the content that I'm talking today, I'm sure you're also feeling it's all something just flowing from the heart. So beautifully written. Vrusha, you're a great writer, but let me still continue. Beyond her professional and parenting roles, she has learned to play the harmonium and loves music in various forms. She has recently picked up on the concept of human libraries and is currently a top favorite. Now, what is it that Vrusha is going to share with us apart from making us aware of all this that exists in this beautiful world? She will make us understand what is unconscious bias and its role in our daily lives. I repeat, unconscious bias and its role in our daily lives. Thank you, Vrusha, for joining us, and I hand over the platform to you now.
Thank you, Aarti. Thank you. Um, it was very nice to listen to the things that you've said. Yes, there were certain words from me, but I think you've made it sound a lot more nicer. I'll definitely give you that.
Thank you.
So, all right. I'm going to start with a little bit of an extra introduction, um, because what I gave Aarti was in terms of what I do, what I currently am. I'm going to start with probably giving you guys a little bit of a story, of how I'm here, where to what I am, and then we'll take it forward from an activity standpoint, right? Um, so I'm the second born in the family. In a family we of four. I say four because we were a nuclear family. I didn't have relatives that I would go every Sunday. We had to travel a distance for us to, if we had to meet relatives. So in that case, I didn't have the annoying side of relatives for the really long time, because the more you meet, the more they get annoying. That's what I've heard in the recent times. So I met them once a year, and they were all nice. My parents are two sets of people who, in early 80s, decided to choose love over everything else. Almost deciding to elope and get married, but the parents decided not to give them enough drama, so they agreed to it. So think about it, right? So I'm born into a family where love is at its peak. I'm also the second born with very typical second born traits that I'm quite sure if any of you guys are parents and have second ones, you're pretty much are able to relate to this. Um, I'm an Aryan born in April, in the month of peak summer, which means outdoorsy is a given concept. We don't understand the concept of winters unless winter hits us. So these are very typical traits of people who are born in the month of April, second month, and so on and so forth. Right? Um, Always been a very, very brilliantly average student. I take zero. Uh, up, I'm not upset about calling myself an average student when it comes to academically, because I had 9% attendance. I had my name on the list of people who had less attendance, but I also had my name in doing really well in sports, in about 9, 10 sports. My mom was a part of the same institution where she was teaching, so she's seen those notice boards where she's seen my name as lack of attendance, but she's also seen me as the captain of certain things, winning a trophy, right? So there are different scenarios that my parents have seen from who I am. This has pretty much been how it has been. I know Aarti spoke about a designation, which is associate director. I know Aarti also said that I'm a co-parent, and I say co-parent very proudly again because it was a choice. I didn't have my mom or my mom-in-law when I was delivering in during COVID times. I had my husband with me in the hospital, and it was just the two of us for the first 3 nights. And that's where I think for me co-parenting started, right? Because I don't think I could ask my mom to come pick me up and say, "Oh, I need a pad. Oh, I need something else. Oh, I need something else." Wasn't a conversation, right? It was never a conversation with my husband about co-parenting that we had to discuss about. But that's pretty much been the journey of where I am, how I am an associate director, and so on and so forth, right? Um, Giving you guys this background, I will bring this back into context a little later, right? Let's hold on to that background of mine and let's start doing with one simple activity. I'd like you guys to all close your eyes, right? We've known the drill of closing our eyes and taking a couple of deep breaths. Once we're ready, I'll give you guys a couple of more minutes to take a few deep breaths and with me, probably run with me when I say run with me, through the entire journey, right? It's a very short activity in the scenario. So you are all ready, hurrying up in the cities that you are because you're catching up a flight and you suddenly realize that you are probably running slightly late. So you rush up, you make sure that you're reaching the airport. You're almost cutting a line, you're asking a favor from somebody else and saying, hey, so and so thing has happened, probably Bangalore traffic, Delhi traffic, whatever, wherever you guys are from, Mumbai traffic, so on and so forth. And you make it through, you've gone there, you've entered, and you're the last person to enter the flight. You have a pilot that comes up to say, oh, you're here. Great, let's get started. You get inside, sit there, you've reached your destination. You are then realizing that, oh, finally you have the time, that you've reached your destination on time. Everything is in place. You have a conference to attend, you're attending a conference. And just before the conference for you, you decide to get a cup of coffee because that's what we do. So we've gone ahead, sat in a cafe, and you're taking a cup of coffee. You're sitting by yourself and to observe that there is a very beautiful set of a couple who's sitting there, who's enjoying, they're laughing together, they're having their own cups of coffees and they're drinking what they like. Each of them have their own drinks. There's a little bit of a snack on the table. You look at them, you smile. You move from there, you go to the a tech startup where a young adult is uh, taking on the stage, and it is a beautiful talk that you listen to them, right? And that's where we end our evening at. Take a moment and come back for the session with me on Zoom. Okay, I can see a few faces with their eyes open. I can't see a few of them, so um, you will probably have to talk to me and say, we're back, yes, no, thumbs up, something of that sort. Okay, thank you, Purnima auntie. Thanks, Ma.
Kindly raise your hand or thumbs up as an indicator so that Vrusha will know.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so quick questions. I will need you guys to unmute for this next one answer. Okay. I'd ideally like a unanimous answer coming into place. So I have a question, which was, what gender was the pilot that you guys visualized?
Male.
Any other answer? Anybody?
For me, the pilot didn't came and the people were staring at me.
Okay.
Why are you late?
All right. Okay.
Male.
Male. All right. Fair enough.
Male.
Was the married couple same sex married couple? Was the married couple husband wife?
Husband, wife. Husband,
I
wife.
saw two men.
Someone saw two men. Okay.
That's me, Aarti.
Okay. Thank you, Aarti. All right.
Yeah, I saw the standard young couple.
Standard young couple.
Male and female, yeah.
Okay. Standard young couple. All right. And What was the gender of the tech young CEO?
Male.
Male.
Yeah, male.
Yeah, male.
In the coffee shop, I saw one lady, but the one who served me was a male. And then when I was rushing, there was one lady who gave me the space, but there were men.
All right. I'm not trying to call you all out. I know it sounds like that. Okay. I know I do see smiles where a lot of them have said male, and there is a question in terms of, okay, I know what's coming in, right? But the idea of this workshop is that I'm no expert in unconscious bias. I'm just trying to be someone who's constantly working on making sure that my unconscious biases don't come at the point of decision making, right? Which is why I say unconscious bias on a regular day, right? A lot of us, a lot of them who said that the pilot was a male is because we have, whether we like it or not, I'm assuming most of us here have been born and brought up in a typical Indian family. And there is a context of there's a lot of traveling, also driving, also anything to do with roads and direction, which means it has to be a male gender. Right. The second point of a happily married couple. What if it is in a world where two people who love each other, irrespective of their genders, are allowed to get married and they're happy? And that's not even a visualization that we're allowed to have. We somehow have a problem with two people in love because they do not conform to a particular gender. Right? But we're okay to read about that in our respective mythological stories, irrespective of our gender. Right? We worship monogamy, but our gods are polygamy. Right? But I don't want to be picking on religion because it gets a very sensitive topic, but I'm going to try and do it without hurting somebody's feelings here, right? And if at any given point, certain things that I say do end up triggering something for you guys, please do reach out to your own set of people that you'll reach out to and work on it, because that's something that I do constantly. Because I hear it as someone who is in an organization who today, I will give you an example, something that wasn't supposed to be a part of this session, but has come up now. Because one person said, Vrusha, aapse to main baat kar nahi sakta na. And I have been told that I am very, very approachable. And I believe that all my life. For me to hear that today in a call, I was like, who are you? Why should I believe you? You are the only one. You think I'm not approachable, not my problem. Right? Because people have told me I'm approachable. Also part of unconscious bias. I'm going to bring that back into the space, right? Moving to the third part, the tech CEO was a male for sure, pretty much in 99% of the time. My own visualization, the first time I did it, the male tech CEO was a male. And I'm born into a family where I've seen my mom an entrepreneur. I'm born into a family where I've seen my sister who runs multiple businesses. It's just not one. But my visualization of a tech CEO is a man. Right? This is exactly what we say is unconscious bias. How does it happen? Thoda sa science in terms of, I'm assuming a few words of Hindi is not going to harm somebody here in, yeah? Okay, great. So thoda sa science, right? It's a direct reaction, which is pretty much that happens in our brain, right? One of the reasons why Redikall fits in my thought process while I'm in my early 30s. And a lot of them say कि ये अरे you do healing सब 40 के बाद ना तो तुम मतलब इतना जल्दी why, right? This is one of those conversations that I deal with on a regular basis, right? It clicks with me very strongly because it talks about science. It doesn't talk about random things, right? Unconscious bias in the same angle is science. So we have the amygdala, which is the most ancient part of our brain, right? We're all heard it. We've heard of these names. Thanks to a lot of movies making it a lot more simpler, saying there have been conversations or scripts that are written where amygdala is a word that is being used, and hence a lot of them understand the word as well now, right? It's a very small part of our brain. What it does is it stores memories, it creates familiarity for us. The reason it creates familiarities and memories for us is because that's its job. Okay, we have the frontal cortex. Science and history has shown that frontal cortex has developed over a period of time. If you actually look at human generation from an ape to a man that we've turned into, or a woman that you've turned into, our brains have developed. So our brain as a body item or a part of our body has had the ability of developing, but somehow our soch thoda sa has remained somewhere behind, right? That is the fight that we constantly keep fighting. So amygdala is again the same place where we do fight and flight, same concept about our psychological concepts in terms of a matrix that we follow, right? What it does is the minute I give you a terminology, it will create familiarity. It will create judgment. It will create, hi, this I know. Which is why I created a story about who I am. And the minute I said I am born into a family and I'm the second sibling, all second siblings had a version of me that connected with them, most likely. The minute I also said that I'm born into a family jahan pe my parents chose love over everything else, there was probably a disconnect, because I don't know how many of your parents did love marriage. Right? The minute I said that I was in a nuclear family and I didn't have relatives coming and doing chichi chacha on a regular every Sunday basis, a lot of you all went back to that Sunday and came back. Where you all said, oof, that auntie, oof. Okay, why did that lady come and do things for me? Usne jitna kalesh kara tha, no one has done this in my life. Right? You all picked up things on sentences that I said about myself. I had no reference to any of you guys. I only had a reference to my mother in terms of that she choosing to love, right? I did not talk about my sister in this context. But I don't know how many of you guys thought that my other sibling was a sister or a brother. But there is an assumption कि दो हैं, of two assumptions. One, I'm assuming the first one is a girl, hence went for the second one. Two, I'm assuming the first one is a boy, hence went for the second one, because then family is complete. Right? We've also known that everything that a lot of us talk, it keeps going back in our head through the connections that we make. And those connections are basically with the hippocampus of our brain and the amygdala of our brain that give you the information that you kind of take it off it. Moves into the frontal cortex. The frontal cortex is also known to make rational thoughts. The frontal cortex is also known to make the most emotional reactions of it. Right? Which is why our stereotypes, which today are known stereotypes, gender stereotypes are known stereotypes, color stereotypes in India, the known things. Also abroad, we've seen the whole white and black scenario. We've seen ageism as a concept in the corporate world is really big right now as a terminology. That तुम 40 के हो जाओगे तो तुम्हारा growth नहीं होगा. Now is the time to hustle. Because if you don't hustle now, what will you do when you're 40? Because you cannot hustle. Right? Experience bias is another bias. So the types of different biases that we have in today's world is huge. And hence the whole concept of unconscious bias, because conscious bias is very minimal. We're also not, whether I choose to say the word trained, because we're also not trained to question our biases. Because questioning our biases means we're questioning ourselves. And you question yourself only when you're wrong. Or when you think you're wrong. Or when you have been told by someone you really love and care that you are wrong. Because authority figure is a very important concept in our lives. Right? So the whole space of unconscious bias breaks down into this. The reason why certain things that I would say is in terms of, except for one person saying I saw two men, is probably because I said they had two different things that they were saying that they were having. They had their coffees, but they also had their own drinks. They also had something really nice to eat on the table, right? I build a picture of a young couple for you guys. It was a conscious effort of building a picture of a young couple, right? Because that is what we see. We don't see old couples as happy couples. We somehow see कि या तो आंटी खुश है या तो अंकल खुश है, and it's just accepted कि आंटी अंकल दोनों खुश लगे तो हम वीडियो बना रहे हैं कि wow, what a couple, can I please take a picture. I don't know how many of you have seen this, but there was a viral video of a Punjabi uncle dancing with his wife. I'm quite sure a lot of you guys would have seen it over reels or shorts or something of that sort, right? I've seen enough and more uncle and aunties dancing to every wedding and every New Year parties in the place that I'm born and brought up, which is Goa. I also very conveniently did not use Goa as my place of upbringing, because that depletes my level of knowledge. And I've learned this the hard way. I was clear enough in saying I'm an average student, academically, right? But I also made my point in that scenario. But if I say I need you guys to visualize someone who scored a distinction in an MBA and has gotten a gold medal, my face is not the face you get. Even though you've heard me talking for the last 25-30 minutes. While we are in the topic of unconscious bias. Right? So one of the things that happens on a regular basis, so being truthful to the topic and not dwelling too much into a larger context of life. This is a topic that I probably am going to be so passionate about that I can talk for 3 days, and I'm quite sure of that. But coming back to on our day-to-day lives, our judgments, our decisions, whether emotional, whether it is non-emotional, whether it is a rational thinking, whether it is a hiring space, whether it is assuming that a house help has no hygiene, without realizing that probably that person has an OCD of cleanliness, because we think an OCD is a rich man's disease. You don't see an OCD of a house help. I've not seen any of, and including me, only in the recent time when I've constantly started to look at it, when I've constantly started to question, saying, why do I think that the smell that is coming from a bus is from someone who is of a lower stature? Maybe someone who's as well to do has not had a bath today. Like you? Like someone who's fair can stay without having bath for 3 days. And no one might probably get to know. I've stayed without having bath for 3 to 4 days. My mom laughs because she had to push me to have a bath on a regular. I hate having bath, guys. Right? Because I just feel it's on days that is winter. Like, why waste water? Someone needs water somewhere. My mom hated it because she's a Brahmin. Now make more sense to it. Right? Doesn't understand the concept of ऐसे के तुम सुबह उठ के नहाए बिना तुम दिन कैसे चालू होता है? I'm like, हो जाता है चालू जैसे सबका होता है. Just basic sense of bias, right? How does this affect us? Because then these are very subconscious level judgments that we've made that lead to a conscious level of statement that we do. One of the biggest reasons why certain subconscious biases become very difficult in today's world, whether we are dealing with a generation, whether we are dealing with a sexual orientation, whether we are dealing with ageism, is because we tend to make statements that are very derogatory and hurtful to the other person. And that is not okay. It's okay to assume कि सबकी बुआ चीची चाचा करती है. It's okay to assume. Realizing that you are probably बुआ to somebody. But to say कि मेरी बुआ चीची चाचा is a thing, right? Daughters are closer to fathers. I'm not really sure of it. I believed it all my life because everyone kept telling me this. But I'm not very sure of it. I just have two different relationships with two different people who happen to be my parents. And he had less time with me to yell at me. I'm sure if he had more time with me, he would have yelled at me as much as my mother did. But Papa Pari is a concept, right? Again, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be watchful of every statement I make in my life. That's not the point, right? But it doesn't harm us to start questioning certain things that may have been there and have affected somebody else. If you see a facial change in somebody else, maybe they didn't like it. Just take a step back, think about how it works. Um, there's a huge study for people in the corporate world. I'd like you guys to just kind of, if your brains light up with this, read about it. There's a huge study that says the reason why women don't make it in the top management is not because the women don't want, because there's a vast difference in how subordinates treat their women managers versus their male managers, because they come from a household where the authority is the father and the mother is a caring person. If you heard Mamta talking, she said that there was somebody who gave her way and that was a woman. Because so gender bias wise, women are supposed to care and provide and not provide, versus men are supposed to provide, right? And hence taking me from one place to the other is the provider's job. Serving me is probably a women's job, but because it's a cafe and I said you're sitting and drinking coffee, there's a male provider because he's a provider, right? So it's just one thing, and I'm constantly working on these things. There are different types of biases. We have gender. There's something called the affinity bias. I've just realized I think we're crossing time. Arti, just want to check, is it okay if we continue for another 5 minutes?
No problem at all. It's interesting. Please continue.
All right. Okay. So some types of biases that we may uh, want to kind of go deeper and do your own understanding of it. One is, what is an affinity bias? Affinity bias is what I played with you guys in the beginning by giving you guys a connect with me being the second one, me being an Aries born, me being a summer baby, me being so and so, so and so. You've created a bucket. If you're, even if 2 to 3 things tick for you, which are similar to me or similar to the people you like in your life, you like me. Hence, if I give you a feedback form right now, your scores are 4 on 5 versus someone who hates summer, someone who hates the second sibling, who's not had a great relationship, is a 3 on 5 for sure. And proven concepts, right? As an L&D person, have done this research, proven concepts, right? I'll give you something very personal. Didn't think of sharing, we'll share it, but I'm going to share it because it's just popped up in the head. How biases play such a big role that my partner is a second child. My sister, who's known to be a conqueror, who's known to be someone who's pushing after, has married a single child. Not because she loves me any less. She'll go for war for me, and I know that for a fact, right? But it's just that I will do it just for one person. That's what the elder one does, because that's what they've been told. You have to take care. I was not told that I have to take care. So I had no intentions of marrying an elder one because I was like, listen, he's going to say, uski behan hai, uski shaadi kara. Who knew at 26 that that was my thought process? I didn't know at 33 I'm going to be sitting here and talking unconscious biases. Would I have changed the person I marry? Absolutely no. I'm in love with him. But would I have looked at it differently? Yes, I would have. I look back and maybe I didn't date a few because they were firstborns. I was like, ये लफड़ा नहीं चाहिए, नहीं. Right? Because you're constantly going to ask me to prove my worth. Because for some reason I'm supposed to do it because I'm a second born. Yeah. I'm going to have a video to show you guys. It's a 3.5 minutes video. It will shake a few of you guys. It will make you guys think about how we put people in boxes because of our biases. I want to leave you guys with that, and then we can discuss in terms of so many other things that come into place, right? Let me share my screen and get to the point. I'm hoping you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, we can.
Place people in boxes, drawing lines, creating signs. There's us, and there's them. Those we feel comfortable around, and those we don't. There are those of us with many chapters, and those just starting their own stories. There's the well-to-do, and those doing what they can. There are those we share something with, and those we don't seem to share anything with.
Welcome, and thank you for coming today, guys. Today I'm going to be conducting an experiment where I'll ask you a series of questions. Now, these questions will be very personal questions, and for us to get a true result, I need you to be completely honest with how you respond. The first question I have is, who in here was the class clown? Who is never on time?
There's us. Bullied others.
Vrusha, we can't actually hear what the...
We can't hear the questions
Voice
what
is
he's
breaking.
asking.
Actually, if you can tell us.
Vrusha, can you just tell us the questions that are being asked if you know them?
Yes. Okay. So have you all been not able to hear any of the questions?
No, nothing. It is the voice is broken. We can't hear anything.
All right. Okay.
Just tell us the groups that have left on what basis.
Correct. So the groups haven't left. They come back to the same groups. What they've done is they've brought people from different statures, from different things. For example, people who are working, people who are not working, people who are doing really well, people who are so-called rich, people who are not doing so well, and so on and so forth. So they've bucketized them and put them in different boxes. And then they started to do this whole exercise where they've asked questions. So for the first question was, step out if you've been the class clown.
Yeah.
So then we saw people coming from different boxes, right? Then they asked another question in terms of step out if you felt lonely. There were people from different boxes that came in. There was another question which people are saying, step out if you've been a bully to somebody. People stepped out from different boxes. They've also said step out if you feel lonely. People from different boxes. The next question was step out if you have been a bully, right? And people walked out. There were two people that if you see were also bullied and been a bully, right? So I don't know if it was, which way was it, but I'm quite sure the person has turned around at some point in their life, right? The next few questions in the same lines, I'm going to stop sharing. I'll probably share the link of this video to you guys so you guys can listen to it at your own pace, right? It just talks about how in that same group, there were people who had tattoos, there were people who had fought cancer. There were people who have lost a loved one. They asked question in terms of the lucky ones who had sex this morning. They spoke about, and there were a lot of people who were hesitant to come, not hesitant to come, right? They've spoken about how people have relationships who are heartbroken. And there were people across the board for every question. But it is our biases that will stop us from looking at them because we're not questioning our unconscious bias. And because it is a scientific reason and it is not a learned belief, because there's a classic scientific reason about the whole amygdala responding to it like a stress situation. Only if we question it and we tell ourselves that this is not stressful. Watching two men kiss is not stressful. Having a transgender or asking someone to not call a transgender chakka is not stressful. You don't have to be an activist to say that. Looking at how do we handle this unconscious bias? Apurva, great question. You have to constantly question yourself. There is no other way. When you make a statement, so there are certain statements, right? For example, I said, when Aarti introduced and said, I have to say this, that you have a very beautiful smile. And I said, I intend to use it today. If you've made a judgment that probably Vrusha's sessions are nicer because she looks nice, is a bias. Because then my knowledge is not counted. Yeah. But if I like Vrusha's concept or the talk that I had with Vrusha, because I think what she spoke made sense to me. Hey, but you know what? She also looks nice, is not a bias. Is your feeling. Right? So for us to be conscious of the fact that my feeling is a feeling which no one is allowed to question, but your bias is something that you will have to question. And when you have allies that are with you who are going to help you question it, it makes life more easier. It's taken us. Apurva, do you have another question?
Yes, ma'am. I want to know one thing, that the reason we have these unconscious biases that we encourage is because we like conformity. If the majority of because nobody wants to be set apart. Right. So if the majority is doing something, saying something, we easily conform to that. And we also, even if we think differently, while speaking, we will speak something else. We will only speak which everybody wants to hear. So that's how this unconscious bias creeps in.
Correct. So I'll tell you how I've tried to work this out for me. I'm going to share that, see if that works for you, Purva, right? One thing that I do is, if I know that I don't need to say it out loud to agree to a particular thing, while I don't agree it, and I also don't want to say it because I think if me saying I don't agree to this is going to hurt an uncle who's come home and maybe he's just coming home once in 45 days and I don't have to say something, I choose not to. But if it is coming from my people, I am having a one-on-one. Because the minute you're having a conversation with 1:2 also, you're killing it for yourself, because the two of them are going to pounce on you. Because the first time you have it, yet whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. So if I want to talk to my mom and my sister about something that both of them seem to agree upon and I don't agree upon, and I want to point it out as an unconscious bias, it is extremely stupid of me to do it together with them. Right? If I want something to be pointed out, I'm doing this on a one-on-one basis on a day that I think is my strong foot. कि सुनो, there might be a possibility कि ये ना हो. You start with that. Because unconscious bias is not saying कि ये नहीं है. It is saying that there is a possibility that it is not there. There is nothing wrong in a pilot being a male. But there's everything wrong about pilot being only a male. That's our only point. Right? I have a son. So I'm not going to be raising him to not be a pilot because women have to be pilots. Sorry. Right? I'm also not going to be raising him up to not be a Kathak dancer because women have more grace. He seems to be dancing really well right now. I'm like, kar le jo karna hai. Right? I've already had people looking at it and saying he loves cars. I'm like, that's what he has in his toy shelf. For some reason, all first birthday gifts were something to do with vehicles, something to do with construction, something to do. He's got some 4 JCBs, some 5 aeroplanes. No one seems to have given him a kitchen set. I'm the only one who's bought him a kitchen set. Because he seems to want to like to cut things. I've also eased it in very slowly. I didn't jhenda leke aage nahi gayi main. I said, okay, first I got one wooden cutting, four fruits, one knife. Then I slowly brought one kitchen set. If I brought the whole kitchen set first, they'd be like, Vrusha, but why do you have to teach this now? And it doesn't have to be my set of in-laws or my mom. They will not say this to me. Because they've known this. Vrusha keeps saying things back. Right? I've created that perception already about me right now. But there will be other people who will come back and say, why are you spoiling the boy? And that is a trigger for me. So why get into situations that way? Yeah. So try that approach, which is that there is a possibility that the couple can be a straight couple. And there's nothing wrong about it. It can be a straight couple. It can be a gay couple. It can be a lesbian couple. It can be two people who are non-binary. It can be people who is so many different things here. It could be like a really old couple. It could be a old uncle and a young person. It could be an old auntie and a young boy. It could be anything. Right? So yes, mom.
When we talk about straight couple, that itself, don't you think that itself is a biased statement?
Why is it a biased?
What is straight and what is like, I mean, like if you take it like, straight and then opposite is crooked.
Oh, so that's English.
What is that? That's
straight and crooked is English opposites.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need to use English terminologies just like this. So I'll give you an example, right? When we say straight couple, it's like saying normal delivery, vaginal delivery. A C-section delivery is not an abnormal delivery. But another term for normal delivery is vaginal delivery. Right? C-section delivery is another term that is used for a surgical delivery. Right? So these are just terminologies that are used. Now, what you associate with it is the bias. So the reason we call them straight couples is because your sexual orientation is straight, which is your X and your Y chromosome. Right? There are two different genders, two different concepts. You're getting together for whatever reasons that you want to, whether it is sexual, non-sexual, emotional, all of that is a separate context. Right? Non-straight couples are anybody because that entire community is called non-straight at this point. So queer is the term that we use. Yeah. So queer couples. Yes.
My question to you, Vrusha, is this: we are talking based on a on a broad basis.
Yeah.
Now we as individuals, as we are growing, we are conditioned with certain beliefs and certain processes which do not appear unnatural to us. Yeah. Correct?
Yes.
Now, and we also go through a lot of experiences based on what we do not consider unnatural to us. So for people from this part of the spectrum, when they are looking at things from their perspective, right? Forget the judgment, forget the reason of having critical comments or expectations. How are they to process that this is an unconscious bias or this is normal? Forget about the couples, etc. It's about when children are born. If you know it's a boy coming, so everything will be blue. And if it's a girl coming, everything will be pink. Or my experience is just because I'm the younger daughter-in-law, or just because, I've decided mentally that my mother-in-law is a monster.
Yeah.
But if the same thing is said by a mother, for example, you do something and your mother says, don't do that. I don't think it's needed, or this is not correct. Do it this way. You may grumble, but you will accept it. But the same thing, if your mother-in-law tells you that don't do that, that is not the correct thing, let me show you how to do it, you will rise up with all your talents, and how dare she speak to me like that? So, how do you define and train the mind that, okay, she may be mother in law? It's just an example, maybe a mother in law, but what she's saying, let me look at the sense behind it. And that is not happening in the world today with all the youngsters. If you see, that's why so many divorces. I'm not saying only mother-in-law is responsible, but yeah, how would you tell somebody, how to examine themselves?
Okay, so one of the things that I constantly tell, because I'll just take 2 steps back to answer that question, Aarti, if that's okay with you, right?
Sure.
I'm 33, which means I'm surrounded by people who are either recently gotten married or in the last 4 5. And when I say recently, I'm talking about 4 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the time that we think that is okay. Chal, matlab, let's settle down, right? Or whatever that meaning of that terminology is. So for me, what happens is one of the things that I talk to them about is we have grown up watching Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi, whether we like it or not. This is our generation. We've also grown up watching Kahani Ghar Ghar Ki, and then we had a very great revolution of Kasauti Zindagi Ki. Okay. Then somehow, irrespective of the fact that the bar that was there in the Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi serial was a darling of a grandmother-in-law. But we've somehow just taken that out of context. मतलब कोई बात ही नहीं कर रहा उस औरत के बारे में. We're all talking about Smriti Irani's mother-in-law. I don't even know her name, but we're all constantly referring to her. And then we have a Komalika that we refer to. And even today, I kid you not, Aarti, I listen to people talking about this as young as 28, 29, 30. This age group are saying कि मेरे life में Komalika आ चुकी है. Because it is a reference point that we're making. So one of the first things that I always constantly talk to myself or anybody is to find your reference point. If your reference point is personal experience, one day before the wedding, we have Devkarya as a puja, right? This is the god puja, blah, 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 different names at all Hindu concepts. Irrespective of your religion, you will have that puja. I have my grandmother kind of person who's really old, still there, nice lady, but is standing there and singing some song that says that your mother-in-law is a Diane, something, and they're doing something of that sort. And I'm listening to that and I'm looking at my mother and I'm like, kya chal raha hai? And my mom is giving me this look, okay, saying just, and she's giggling. She knows I'm already agitated about this. I'm like, I don't see the point of them firing battles to my mom. I still don't know if I'm going to do that or not. Let me find that out at least. I don't know the person yet, right? But you are brought into that. So for you to break it, it is a challenger. There is no doubt about it. It is an uphill battle. But one thing that has helped me is to look at it as a adult conversation and not as an authoritative conversation. Because जितना डर as a daughter-in-law रहता है, उससे ज़्यादा mother-in-law को डर रहता है. They're only coming from a space of fear and not being able to say, I'm scared because if you file a dowry case against me in the first 7 years, I'm jailed. They know it. They're reading it in the paper every day. So they are also so fearful of trying to connect to any of these daughter-in-laws who are playing the role of these typical daughter-in-law or mother-in-law roles. Right? One thing that worked for me was to have a one-on-one conversation on day 2 of my marriage with her, which says that I do not wake up early in the morning. I do not cook because I don't enjoy it. But I do a lot of household work, which is going outside and getting things. You want me to go outside and get coriander at 11 p.m. in the night, I'll be one of the first people because I know your son will not get up and know I'm in love with your son and I know those habits, right? Conversations between me and you have to be between me and you. I will not like it if your son comes in between because you will be pulled into it, not me. When I put these things out, she put out 3 requests of her end, which were as simple as, I'm a Jain person who eating habits are Jain. I know you like your meat. Can we do it? Can we please not bring meat in my kitchen? I said, it's already spoken. Let's not discuss that. Or kuch. If my parents are here, can you not wear shorts? I said, I'll wear salwar kameez, pant chodo. right? Or kya? I said, how many days are they going to be here? She said, probably 2 days in a year. I'm like, arey, with bindi savar tamees, chalo, right? So you call that shot. But if you don't call that shot and you're already going with that motion, because it is trouble for you, then it is karma, then you're dealing with the whole situation and you're not willing to address it.
Yeah.
So,
No,
it's
my,
yeah.
So yeah, it came from a space because we, as mentors, do see a lot of situations that people are in where they're not able to handle it. So if they understand, like what you have talked today, and they listen to it later, that unconscious bias is something that comes from within us, and we are the ones who control what we want to think about it, is, I think, one of the strongest messages I'm getting from it. And as you said, what is my referral point?
Yes. My
that
referral
is
is
very
my
critical.
Yeah.
And that as a message, if it goes to everyone around, no matter what age group they are and what they are dealing with, whether it is daughter, son, in-laws, or relish, work or anything else, I think that would make a lot of sense to people as to how they can measure it, right?
Yeah. I think just to add a point there is, because our reference points are so strongly engraved that we are unable to even get to the reference point.
Right.
Unless and until poked, and unless that section is carved and you kind of open it up, you're not actually realizing that you're looking at this person as so and so.
Right.
Another thing with, I think, the mother-in-laws and the daughter-in-laws, or I've figured it out, is a lot of daughter-in-laws have a concept of इस घर में बस एक रूम ही है मेरा जहां पे मैं कुछ भी कर सकती हूँ, right? Like they'll start decorating the room. They'll keep their room a lot more cleaner. They will buy bed sheets for their own beds, and I've seen this happening on a lot of terms, right? The bed sheets that are bought here itself. It's just realizing that if it is a typical household where the mother-in-laws also lived with her in-laws, which means she's just gotten the house probably a couple of years before this one's entered in, because that lady was still alive, right? And if someone tells you that you have a house only for 6-7 years, and then somebody else younger to you is going to come and take it, धोबी का घर ना घर का ना घाट का ना,
धोबी का,
sorry, kutta, okay, right? So in that scenario, if we acknowledge the fact that my mother-in-law has just gotten the house to decorate her for herself for probably in the last 4 or 5 years, it is very important to know when her mother-in-law died, honestly, or if they've lived with her, right? Because that's when she's really started to live in her house. And if we can empathize with that part, a lot of it comes down, because then you start looking at them and saying, yeah, I'm just 26, this lady has gotten her house only at the age of 56. Can you beat that? Right? And she's been living in this house since 21. So that sense of empathy towards a mother-in-law, for me, I think, is the key in any relationship.
So the key takeaways, as you have talked, is for this unconscious bias is a referral point that you said that you have to learn to measure. Measure your own biases also, which is important. Empathy, which is very, very critical. And the one thing that I think Mamta has also written, that indulge in adult conversation and not authoritative conversation, either from your side or accept it as coming from the other side. But for that, you need to be very clear and very aware about how you want things to be developing in your life. So is that correct? Have I said it correctly?
Yeah, so many things, yes. All of it. So.
Right. So anybody else? Anybody has a question? Anybody else have a question?
I think I'm going to just add in by then is that, and being like, when you start this journey, you have to be a little like nice to yourself, because it starts feeling that, अरे यार मैं तो इतना कुछ गलत बोल दिया है. Okay, and I feel it's been about 2-3 years that I'm working on this concept, and I sometimes feel that, damn, I didn't say the right thing when my friend at 25 delivered a baby, because I went to her and I said, gaya tera zindagi gaya. Okay, I was the same person who said that to her, and we walked out of her house in our party dresses saying, "हम जा रहे हैं party के लिए, तुम रुको अपने बच्चे के साथ, तुम दूध दो, you be a cow," right? Not realizing the kind of sentences that could actually have made impacts to her.
Correct.
So I think when you start this journey, it doesn't make sense to go back. You can eventually slowly pick up the people that you want to probably apologize to if you think they're willing to listen to you on that. But otherwise, I think it's a journey forward. You can't go back and say, "But I will change everything that I have unconsciously or biasedly said," and things like that. So I think that's just one of my late learnings in that scenario. Yes, I see Bella also having a question, Apurva also having a question.
Yes, Bella.
Ma'am, only one small thing. I didn't agree. Only one thing that when you talk about, isn't our society biased? Like when you talk about all the serials, I always disagreed with them that why only the mother-in-law is portrayed or why only the women is portrayed bad. Whenever they take the name of a father-in-law, we are talking about mother-in-law, or the sister-in-laws. Why the mother don't raise a girl as that you have to accept the house. You are going new to a house and that is their house. Let her be your mother. Does that girl give her the place of the mother, and then why she expects? So the whole cycle is like this. So that's what I meant.
The question is for Vrusha. Bella, the question is for Vrusha. Yes. Okay. Vrusha, would you answer that?
Yes. Okay. So I'll take the question more from a statement standpoint rather than a question, because I completely agree to the fact that it shouldn't be the case, but it is the case. It is also the case because it's re-aired twice, which means वो 1000 episode खत्म होके वो वापस से चल चुके हैं because the TRP is that good. So we have one Bella who's trying to fight it. We also what happens when we are fighting it is our context is to say, "Ab se you are not my mother, she is my mother," and that probably, according to me, is a concern. The conversation has to be: you have one mom, you have another person who's your husband's mom, and understand it that how you don't like someone saying something to your mother, somebody else will not like something being said to his mother. So when we tell an adult to suddenly forget that this person is the mother and go to become somebody else as the mother, first 1 year or the first few months, we are all saying ma, 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 all of that, right? But
Ma'am, I never said that don't, I am not your mother, she is your mother.
correct,
I am
correct.
saying that regard her as also that when acceptance should be there from both the sides.
Yes. So I think both of us are on the same page, to be honest, because you're both saying the same things, right? We are saying that this has to be the case. It is also responsibility of an individual themselves. It is also the responsibility of just probably one other person in the house to say कि सुनो, I tried this, ये चल रहा है मेरे लिए, आप भी try कर लो, right? And that kind of helps. And I'm quite sure, ma'am, that you would have also seen that there are some times where, irrespective of one person trying, intention is right, but it's considered very wrong or ऐसे कैसे हो गया मेरे साथ, and so on and so forth, because of reference points again. Because somewhere mentally your amygdala again responds to the frontal cortex, and it's a scientific thing, which is your fight and flight. मेरे को नहीं लगता आज से मैं इनको कुछ बोलूंगी, आज से मैं चुप, right? It is a stress response that your body is trained to do, because back in the day, that is the only thing that kept us alive from being eaten from a tiger. When we saw a tiger, we ran. Back in the day, that's the only thing that told us that you need to create shelter for yourself because winter is coming, because that is how your brain functioned. We only don't realize it that not every fight today is about life and death. Back then, it used to be a wild animal coming and it is death. So you have to run, you have to fight and flight. Today, even our fight and flight responses have remained the same, but the situations are not. I mean, it's 1 in a million that a person is encountered with a tiger, right? Probably 1 in a billion, unless there's probably people who've jumped into the cages or things like that, or have gone into the jungle knowing that this is a jungle. Back then, it would happen in the road, right? So our responses to a stress situation has remained the same across the time. Unfortunately, that hasn't developed. And I think the only thing that's going to help us develop is some form of self-awareness therapy, whether you want to get into healing, whether you want to get into psychotherapy, irrespective of the modalities of it. That's where it will come in. So the things that you're saying are something that um, I personally crave to hear when someone says, why is the mother-in-law bad?
Ma'am, I just want to share one more thing. My mother-in-law was very strong-headed. I should say cruel. But and like you said, that even she was scared when I was a very good daughter-in-law, but it took me 5 to 7 years to befriend her. And when she opened up with me, she said, because you are from Delhi and I am from UP, I was so scared that you would empower me. So I used to be very rude with you. And then we were best of friends after that.
Wonderful.
It takes one hard nut to crack another hard nut, Bella, if I could say that, right? Because it is a perception. Like, कौन मुंह लगाएगा दिल्ली वालों से? Like, this is a known thing. I have heard this, right? We've stayed away, like, irrespective of NCC camp, जो भी, I was like, Delhi country से दूर रहो, right? It's an absolute brilliant concept that you've shared. Like, yeah. Before I take any questions, just want to add, Aarti, you spoke about when you're mentoring young folks. One of the things that I've tried and has worked is lunch dates, movie dates, which is initiated by the daughter-in-laws to their mother-in-laws saying, chalo na, I used to do this with my mother, can you do this with me?
Yeah, I understand that. So, but again, these biases will take a very long time.
Long time.
It has to kind of de-register in the minds of people, not just about mother-in-laws, which just happens to be a sensitive topic for a lot of youngsters. But yes, but the whole stage that you have opened up for us, I mean, it's fantastic. And for us to understand and know and be aware and learn to live with a new thought process, change your perception with awareness and work forward. And as you said, also refer to healing if it helps, take you forward with it. So I think we'd like to finish on that note. Any last words you'd like to add, Vrusha?
Just have two people who've raised questions. I know Apurva has raised a question. I have Shri also has raised a question. If you have the time, I'd like to take
it. A quick one then, because it's an interesting topic. Please make it quick, girls.
Yeah. I just want to add a very quick thing. Personally, I agree with all the things, whatever has been shared, but I also want to add, because I am working and I also see people who are recently married or all that. The thing is, like, there is a shift in youngsters as well. Like, the unbiased, the biased thing, whatever, unconsciously that you're trying to say all that. I feel because of the spiritual thing, whatever we are learning, even the youngsters are, I kind of see the shift that, they are also raising questions to themselves. It need not be necessary that, we have to have a awareness of that. But I feel there is a kind of shift where they are trying to ask that. With the modern, like Redikall or any other spirituality you come into, that is making it, affirming the statement that, you have to ask questions. But I personally feel that the shift is happening with youngsters, even whether they are knowing or unknowing. That's what I personally have observed. So I just wanted to add this. Thanks.
Thank you. I think it is true that it is happening. I'll agree to that as well. Yeah. All right. Apurva, last one probably.
Yes, ma'am. Very interesting session, ma'am. As you shared with us about unconscious bias, and as I realized that it has seeped into every aspect of our life. And I think that is what Redikall is trying to do with us. Whenever we do radical statements, we question our beliefs, we are questioning our perceptions. Because all these unconscious bias, it has somewhere come from the experiences of the past. So very well, resonated with this, what you shared with us today, and this concept of unconscious bias. Really, thank you very much for sharing this interesting concept, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. It was so nice. Thank you.
So, thank you so much, Vrusha. It has been a really interesting session. And you may say it's a bias, but it's not. But when you have a happy smile, it does make a lot of difference and attracts a lot of people. Okay? But yes, thank you for very putting it so simply and making us understand. Honestly, half the things never struck us. You are right. Even though we do healing, sometimes it just doesn't strike us that we are talking, about certain unconscious biases. But with this, I think we'll have a lot more awareness. Let's say further awareness of how to deal with situations in our lives. So thank you very much. It was very kind of you to be with us, and hope to have you again someday again with some more interesting topics.
That works. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. All the best.
Mind.